Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Journey to Justice. I'm not here to accuse, I'm not here to slander, I'm here to provide the truth and present the receipts so you can see how I arrive to my conclusion. The University of Miami is a racist institution perpetuating institutional racism and hurting the minority community of South Florida. Today, I'm here to do Journey to Justice Series 1, Part 4, where I will speak about the retaliation that happened on multiple occasions at the University of Miami when I was a student, a graduate student in anesthesia school, which led to my demise and eventually a court filing and several other administrative complaints that I did against the university. First, the University of Miami is surrounded by a bunch of Hispanics and whites that are in position of leadership. Starting with the most culpable person of my demise, Dr. Gonzalez. Dr. Juan Gonzalez, Hispanic guy, and then his assistant, Dr. Vladinova Greta, is a white lady from southeastern Europe country called by the name of Bulgaria. And then from there, there's the Gomez Nicole Gonzaga with a Hispanic last name. And then from there, you have Dr. Hushman, Marie A. Hushman, an older white lady. And then that's the associate dean. And the dean is Sandy Monroe, another older white lady in their 60s, I believe, mid to late 60s. And then from there, you have Guillermo Prado, that's a Hispanic guy. And then above him is the president, Julio Frank. That's another Hispanic man. Most of these professors are immigrants, first generation immigrants with very thick accents from their country. It's not a criticism of them. I'm also an immigrant with my accent. But, and then if we continue, the Guillermo Prado's assistant is a lady by the name of Tatiana Perino. She's also Hispanic. And then multiple of their lawyers are Hispanics. And then if you go even to the courthouse, the judge that dismissed my case is Carlos Perez, Hispanic judge. He came to the court late. He didn't care. He didn't listen. He didn't allow my attorney to speak. He just disregarded my case, despite my attorney preparing a very thorough lawsuit and presented to his court room. So that his disregard of my case is now the reason why we have to go to the District Court of Appeals, the second level of courts in Florida, which and the third level would be the Florida Supreme Court, right? So, as you probably aware, my first dismissal was in the summer of 2020. So I returned in summer. Actually, I was supposed to, if you look at it, I was supposed to return to repeat the class that they failed me, right? Summer of 2021. But no, that's not what they did. They brought me in much sooner. They brought me in at least 5 months before the course that they improperly failed me, right? They bring me in the spring of 2021 so that they have more time for retaliation. And the very first location that they placed me for clinical was University of Miami Hospital, where Dr. Vladinov worked, where she attacked me the previous year, for my first failure. So even though the agreement was the second time I was returning, I was not supposed to work under Dr. Vladinov or Dr. Gonzalez, yet she had multiple accomplices at the University of Miami Hospital. Her main accomplice was Mr. Anthony Roig. So this guy was working with me. He was very upset. He was complaining and complaining every single day, giving me bad evaluation because we have a summative evaluation by the University of Miami professors, but also we have daily evaluations. So every daily evaluation Mr. Roy gave me was very, very poor. He had complaints, obviously, patient safety, this and that, and this and this. But he always religiously requested to work with me. If he worked 3 days, he made sure that I was under him all those 3 days. And I tried to talk to him. How do I improve? I knew it wasn't about improvement. How do I? And then when I saw what he was doing, I reached out to the school. I sent Dr. Hushman multiple emails saying that this is impossible for me to succeed with this man, and she ignored all those emails, right? And one day, Roy lost his temper and left me in the OR by myself. The OR wasn't prepared. Extremely unsafe, an extremely unsafe environment for a student you quote unquote deem already to be unsafe, right? There was a pregnant circulating nurse in the OR. I had to send her outside to go get me rocuronium, which is a neuromuscular blockade to keep the patient still, while they're under surgery. We ran out. I had to send this nurse to go out there and go hunt me more this critical medication that I needed to perform the surgery. So all of that is documented. I did an incident report. I call it an incident report because obviously that's what it was. He was screaming at me in front of the surgeons. The patient wasn't even asleep. When he walked out and he lost his temper and stuff like that. This is a patient fully awake, completely oriented, and watching all this unprofessional behavior at the University of Miami Hospital. All of this, right? So that was number one, the early return. Number two, the retaliation by her accomplice, and which all that what I just spoke about. Number three, so now I got through this semester. When they removed me at the end of when they removed me after I sent that incident report reporting Roy's behavior, they turned around and victim blamed me and told me that I was, oh well, we need to take you out of UMH because you're causing a hostile environment. Okay, so they blame me as they removed me, but they didn't kick me out, right? So they allowed me to, before I go into that, Dr. Hushman, the associate dean of the school, has so much power and influence that she was able to get me to return to a class to sit for a lecture without having to pay. I'm not registered, I'm not paying for tuition, but I'm in class. She created a course for me specifically to force me back into school. But she didn't ask me. The agreement was that I didn't need a passing grade for the course, but I was still taking the exams. But they knew that the retaliation would come from clinical, so they also forced me back into clinical. So technically, I'm repeating a class that I've already passed before the one that they wrongfully failed me. So this story can get very complicated. So you need to, sometimes you may have to pause my video and move back and or listen to what I'm saying again. They forced me to repeat the class that I passed before I can repeat the one that they wrongfully failed me. So it's like double whammy. I mean, talk about a narcissistic group of people with sadistic tendencies. Okay. So all of that was done by Dr. Hushman, stopping me. This is 5 months that I could have worked to take care of my bills and prepare and return. No, she brought me right back in, and she was trying to get me in January 3rd of 2021. I just went through all this appealing process the previous year. Very emotional, very detriment to my mental health. But then yet she just wants to bring me right back in and start her retaliation on me again. Okay, so now after the whole Roy incident at the University of Miami Hospital, now I'm at the summer. They sent me to Plantation General Hospital. Here, they had somewhat lost really track and control of my performance because no one, Dr. Vladinov or Dr. Gonzalez, does not work at Plantation General Hospital. So Plantation General Hospital, they had a meeting with the physician there. His name is Verdone, Dr. Verdone, and then behind my back, obviously, and probably planted some seed. And hey, we did this special student. He has issues, blah blah blah. So for some reason, he convinced them, or they talked, and then I came to Plantation General Hospital. That's when Dr. Gonzalez asked me to work 5 days a week. And that's another act of retaliation. I was doing 5 days a week that semester. All the rest of the class were doing 3 days a week. So there he reduced my study time so that I could not perform as well as I would when I take my exams, because we were doing both clinicals and exams, right? So, and that clinical semester, I got a 95% on my clinical performance, right? So that was done. So through the three different attacks that they did on my didactic scores, my didactic performance, is how they will manage to get my score under an 83% in the didactic portion. I passed the clinical with 95%. They attacked now my didactic portion, right? The first attack that they did was to reduce my time. So when you're taking exams with less time, half of the time that your peers have to study, your scores will be lower than them. And these are very intense national exams that the school gives their students to assess their ability to pass boards. Those exams were called APEX, it's an anesthesia study program, APEX, right? The national average would be in the 70s, 72, 74, 75%. That's how tough the exams are. If you get a 75%, you're doing great. So these exams, I was struggling with them. I would score in the 65s, and I'm gonna show you some of the numbers. 71 when the passing national would be 74 or something like that. So I take these exams under extremely high stress because of the lack of study time. That was part one. Part two, I did an oral presentation with a Hispanic female core a presenter student, where they gave her a 93%, they gave me an 82%. No reason for that. The syllabus did not say that we would be graded separately. So this was done by Dr. Gomez. The second time that I repeat this class in the summer of 2021, the class was not taught by Dr. Gonzalez, unlike the previous year. It's being taught by Dr. Gomez, Nicole Gomez Gonzaga, but she's an accomplice of Dr. Gonzalez and Dr. Hushman, right? Because she calls them for every small decision she has to make regarding the class and obviously my situation. So she, through their order, gave me a lower score, right? Through their consent and orders and stuff, gave me a lower score. And then the third strike is that through the 5 days of going to clinical, right, we also had to take another exam called a C exam, right? This exam is given off campus. So this exam is also given Monday through Friday. I'm busy Monday through Friday. They want me to do 5 days of clinical the entire semester. So I have no time to take the C exam. I can't take the C exam Sundays or Saturdays or Sundays. I have to take the C exam on the day, and I also can't take the C exams during clinical days. So I have to take the C exam on the days that I have class. I mean, my schedule's tight, and this was part of my appeal to Dr. Hushman. I showed her my schedule. This is when she played the psychological game. This is a point that Dr. Hushman could not defend. But yet, as the judge, as a person who's supposed to be impartial and be fair and stop Dr. Gonzalez's abuse, she defended him as if she was his attorney during my appeal with her, right? So back to the whole C exam and the third portion of the retaliation acts, right? So I scheduled the C exam on the day I had class. The C exam is 4 hours. The testing center opens at 9, or I think it was 8 or 9 in the morning. So 4 hours. I have class at 1. I rushed the C exam. I think I spent less than 3 hours in the test, and the facility I was taking the C exam is like 30 minutes away. Like it was far away from the school. So I'm rushing from the C exam, rushing to class, and I have another. That was do in class. I had my second test, right? So I'm driving and emailing Dr. Gomez, Dr. Gonzaga, Nicole Gonzaga Gomez. I'm emailing her and tell her, Professor, I'll be 10 minutes late to class because I'm just rushing. I'm just leaving the C exam, the testing center for taking the C exam. And then I think she said okay or something like that. So when I rushed in there, I was late. The class was already taking their test. I missed the instructions of the test. I missed what she said, that how long the test would be, how many parts. So I sat down and took three, because these exams, exam one had sections. Exam two also had six sections, right? I I didn't know that all exams would have the same number of sections. It could be four, it could be five, it doesn't matter. So I took three. I only saw three parts of the exam, so I took the three and then closed my computer. Come to find out, exam two was six parts. Even though they caused me through all their stress and demands, forcing me to do extra work, forcing me, giving me no time to study, giving me no time to take the mandatory C exam for the class, even though they caused all those damages. When I told Dr. Gonzaga that I didn't know the exam was six parts, I didn't open the additional parts that I didn't take. Can you allow me to take the exam, those exams? She said no. In fact, she told me that was in person. Or if I allow you to take this, the parts that you missed, I'd have to do it for the entire class. How crazy is that? Well, if anybody in the class is doing 5 days a week of clinical, then you should allow them to take it. Then they have earned the same you know grace that I'm asking you to give me. It is not equal, right? You cannot claim that if you allow me to take this test, you have to do it for the entire class. Then, well, then do it for the entire class. If the entire class is going through what you guys are forcing me and putting me through, then they all deserve to take whatever they miss that you caused them to miss. So that was part three, reducing my score, giving me lower presentation grade arbitrarily, nothing on the syllabus. The third part is not allowing me to make up for something that you caused intentionally. It's almost like there's a race. We all supposed to be racing on fair ground. You putting extra obstacles in front of me, and then you want to blame me when I trip and fall. So these three acts of retaliation led to a score of 79 or something in the class. And the passing score of the university is 83%. You caused me to get a 79. If you had allowed me to go to 3 days of clinical, right, and not not wrongfully giving me a lower score in my presentation, allowing me to take my exams, I would probably get a 93 or 94% in the class. And here's another part. Halfway through the semester, I complained and told them, even though it was too late, I messed up. Also, I should have complained sooner. Halfway through, I had half of the coursework was done, more than half actually. Now only the finals left. I complained, and then they're like, okay. I complained about all the extra hours I had to do at clinical. They, with no pushback, they said, okay, you can stop doing the 5 days of clinical. And when I had the exact same time to study for the finals as my peers, my score was above national average. This means if you were fair to me, I would have been fine. Here's another part, right? Though I had a 95% and the clinical portion of my performance at not UMH, of Plantation General Hospital, I had a 95%. Dr. Verdon, the chief anesthesiologist at Plantation General, was very pleased with my performance. The nurses liked me. I was there early. I was helping. There were shortages with techs and stuff. I would come and help and set up machines for the whole entire department, and just helping, right? They were very pleased and got a good score. Everything went well. Now that they are failing me with all their strategies and retaliation of they're failing me the course. When I appeal, I'm appealing the course grade that you are discriminating and failing me wrongfully, right? They went in and start digging into my clinical grade that I've already passed. That's already like behind me. This was done deliberately to confuse the appeal committee, right? They they spoke to Dr. Verdon or some staff at the Plantation General Hospital and had Dr. Verdon email them back a very bad email. Basically, that's a form of coercion, deception, right? Manipulation. They had Dr. Verdon email them back some scathing email about me saying that he's rescinding the grade that he gave me in the clinical performance of for the semester. That's not what we are appealing. We're appealing the didactic that you gave me a less than 80 that you failed me intentionally, but then you go digging into other things. You start going around calling my preceptors to get them to say something bad about me. And if you read Dr. Verdon's email, it's like half of the story. He said something like, it came to my attention. So how did it come to your attention exactly? Who brought it to your attention? And what sense and what form? Were you called? Did somebody email you? How do you start this your story like halfway? It came to your attention how? So all this probing into my clinical performance at Plantation, that email was used on the committee so that the appeal committee, would not side with me, would not give me a favorable outcome in my appeal process. That was one that's more retaliation, coercion. This is what I mean when I say there's no bottom for the University of Miami. If you look at all these lawsuits that where they're abusing their employees who got hurt on the job, they're abusing their customers who got hurt on other job on another job, who came to get help at their facilities, overcharging everybody. Sometimes the claims are like $8,000, $5,000. Usually, an attorney would reach out to the defendant, the plaintiff's attorney, the person complaining is the plaintiff, would reach out to the defendant, to say, hey, we have a client here and we have good evidence that this is a legitimate situation. Can we work things out? This is a university who's willing to have a lawsuit filed against them for $8,000, $4,000. Some of them were even $4,000. This is someone who knows that I don't answer to anyone, including the court system of South Florida. Back to my situation. So now you have Dr. Prado. Regardless of, despite his doubts of what the School of Nursing was doing, he had his doubts. He voiced his doubts to me. He said, Robert, I asked them why you were doing better at the Plantation, and they told me that the cases were easier. That's him telling me that, you know what, I don't really believe them. He asked himself, that was one question he asked them. And they told him the cases were easier. He told me that. He told me something else that's not coming to my mind right now. So despite him seeing what they're doing, he sided with them and had his secretary send me a dismissal letter. And after I received that dismissal letter, I told Dr. Prado that I intend to file an OCR complaint against the university for discriminating. Not only that, he defended the school of the School of Nursing, right? He also stalled my complaint at the OCR. what he did is that he told me in his reply to me that the school didn't ask for resignation, which they did, just to cover his own track and his own job or whatever. And then, in addition to telling me that the school did not ask for resignation, he also told me that he's gonna submit my complaint to the Equity, Inclusion, and Diversity department at UM. So basically, he has firsthand knowledge that once the OCR is made aware of any additional processes going on at the university, the OCR will then decline your complaint, and that will take a couple more months for you to refile with the OCR. So he did that intentionally to stall and cover his butt and all of that, right? So that was more retaliation. Another thing he did, right? So now the Inclusion and Equity Department at the University of Miami took more than 1 month because they don't really care. They never really cared to investigate my case for discrimination at their department. They took a whole month. They didn't care, just sitting on this information that he just said that he would have them investigate. After a whole month, when my attorney reached out to UM's attorney and start sending demand letters, that's when the equity department sent me an email saying by this attorney called Jessica Pacheco, and this equity person at UM is an attorney, and it's the rules that no attorney should be involved on both sides of this process. This is an internal process between the school and the student, and no attorney should be involved. And the very person that reached out to me is an attorney. And guess what? She conveniently failed to disclose that she is an attorney. This is University of Miami once again breaking all the rules in the book. The discrimination, the just this institutional racism, where they just don't have to answer to black students, right? So let's conclude. So now this attorney disguised under this coordinator of, and she claimed that she would just have this meeting not in a form of an attorney, but she just wants to investigate my complaint for discrimination. Obviously, the plan, I'm sure, was to ask me to incriminate me and to some sort of on record to say that, to get me to say anything that would deny my discrimination claim at the university, right? Number 8, they lied to the COA. Dr. Gonzalez is a member of the COA. The University of Miami is paying the COA annually for the anesthesia program is paying the COA, which is the Council on Accreditation. They're paying the COA an annual salary or an annual fee to keep their accreditation to teach anesthesia, and he's a member on there. So what the COA does is that they bring you on at first, and then you present your case, and then they give the school the opportunity to dismiss you from the meeting. So you have no idea what the school is telling them behind your back, what fake documentation they're bringing. Besides, they're a bunch of friends anyway. This guy already works there. He's already a member of the COA. This is how the institution is so deeply intertwined with one another, perpetuating the harm of minority students, and there's absolutely no due process, no justice available to us, right? Now, from the COA, they dismissed that. They're stalling my OCR complaint, and even when we get to court, they lied to their another Hispanic judge. They're in court 41 times. They sued 41 times in 15 months. They have a very, deep relationship with the court, right? They're in there a lot. They're bringing in business, I guess. So eh, not only that, then they provided this new fake documentation. The documentation Gonzalez did of me was so preposterous, was so appalling, where he left four areas blank. He deducted points where he should not have deducted points for my attendance. My attendance was perfect, professional attitude, all those things. If you look in the professional section of the professional attributes of that summative evaluation he did of me on 2021, he deducted points in areas that he should not have. That was the very first time in the program, after receiving 6 or 7 evaluations, summative evaluation, that any professor has ever deducted points for manners and stuff like that. He did all of that. He did intentionally to bring down the score to a failing level, right? He scored me for procedures and areas that I didn't do. He took points away from things that I did do. Anyways, that evaluation was so appalling that he had his friend from Jackson Memorial Hospital, this nurse anesthetist by the name of Daniel Acevedo, to replace that evaluation completely and create a whole new fake one to replace that and provide that to my attorney and eventually the courts. He's basically, they're tapering with the evidence, right? They're not only they're not only stopping me my due process. They're not only interfering with the evidence for any form of due process. They're even taking their abuse to the court. They're even taking their crimes and tapering with evidence, even the evidence that is supposed to be provided to the court, to attorneys. They're even tapering with those emails. It's nobody knows that right now as I'm speaking, what else they're doing, what fake documentation they're doing, what people they're calling, what other physicians they're coercing to get me to get their abuse to stick. They just cannot be honest, right? If you look back at that little chart, that little 5 circle chart I provided you, this is the clear sign of people with extreme narcissistic behaviors. They cannot take responsibility. They cannot reflect. They have no empathy. They have no foresight. They just cannot feel the pain of another human being, and they will take their abuse to the end. Now, as it pertains to the people, even like Dr. Prado and things like that, I sincerely believe Dr. Prado is a good man. I really do. But unfortunately, once you miss that one opportunity to lead, as he did back in 2021, back in 2020, when you miss that opportunity to discipline these malicious professors, these these racist deans that were below him. Once he missed that opportunity, he was basically now his own reputation, his own judgment is on the line. That's why once you support them once, then you just have to go down with the ship. And now that we're in court, after I have emailed the president, Dr. Frank, multiple times, this is not the time for him to email back. We just have to go down with the ship. It becomes a group situation. Perhaps they didn't anticipate that things would just have to go to court and things like that. They assumed that like 99.9% of students, I would just walk away and just leave it alone because it's so expensive and stressful. Most people do just leave it alone, right? They assume that's what's going to happen. When that doesn't happen, they just have to double down. This is the problem with people with this type of psychological tendencies. It's in all of us, but you have to see the trajectory. You have to see, what if this case gets to the Supreme Court? How is this going to look for our institution, right? When all this evidence has to come up, how are we going to cover for all of this stuff that we have done? How many people do we have to call? Like, come on. But anyways, this concludes series one, part four, speaking about the retaliation, all the abuse that the University of Miami did to solidify my dismissal, my final dismissal, and now we're in court. Please, I'm asking you, if you're watching this on TikTok, to visit my YouTube channel. And the name of my channel is Student Rights Advocator, or in other words, like it's a at sign R1, right? The main name is Student Rights Advocator, and then you could find it at the at sign R tertiaire 1, TERCIER 1. That's also another way to find the channel. Or TikTok, I'm asking you to like, to share, to subscribe to any of my channels. Follow if it's TikTok, subscribe if it's YouTube. It's important that we expose these abusive institutions. This is the only way to stop them. Today, I sit on the shoulders of Dr. King. Dr. King was a very comfortable man in his personal life. He did not have to get involved with all that this civil rights issue in the South, but yet he did. So I'm asking you to get involved. When I look at all the filings of the court against the University of Miami, if everyone comes out and speak, University of Miami I probably would not be here. We have to expose the abuse of these racist, unprofessional institutions that are hurting the minorities. That's the only way to stop them. I'm asking you to help me, to share my story, to like, to follow me on TikTok, to go look me up on Facebook, look me up on YouTube. This is extremely, extremely, extremely important. We living in a collective situation on Earth. What you decline to do eventually will affect your great. You may not be around. For example, Dr. King passed away, but he left us in a better position as African Americans in America. The others such as Malcolm X, and so many others. So it's important for us to continue to support one another to stop this abuse of these malicious and narcissistic leaders at these racist institutions. Once again, I'm not here to defame. I'm not here to call any professors or any institution any terms or names that they have not earned. I have the receipts. I'm exercising my First Amendment rights. My constitutional right in the First Amendment to have an opinion, and I've provided the receipts. I didn't burn any bridge. Also, this institution is abusive, the coercive. They will do whatever it takes to maintain this image that does not belong to them. This image of fairness and inclusion, and this whole U sign, as if they pretending, putting like Indian students and Asian students, when they're really behind closed doors, they're destroying, particularly blacks. Discrimination is so complex that even among Spanish people, the Cubans can discriminate against the Puerto Ricans. A black person can discriminate against someone from Jamaica. They may like the Africans, they may not like the Jamaicans. All of this stuff is part of, plagues us as human beings. It's all part of human nature. But the institution as a whole, the people at the very top should know better, should protect the integrity of the institution by stopping their subordinates from acting in such a primal, animalistic, with their animalistic instincts. Once again, not name calling. There's an animal in me too. But I'm hoping that I'm hoping that if I should find myself in a position like that, to know better, to say, you know what, this is, this is going too far. I'm gonna lose this battle. I'm just gonna let this one go. Let me pick on another student. They do not have that foresight. I'm asking you to hold them accountable by increasing the traction I get on these videos. Thank you so much. Once again, thank you. Thank you for watching.